bem, pessoal, vamos seguir os nossos trabalhos de hoje reagindo a esse vídeo do canal Nonstop. Ó, top 10 maiores backcourts da história da NBA. Vídeo parece ser interessante, já tô pronto para discordar desse top 10, tô doidinho para discordar. Então, bora aqui reagir. Lembrando que o link do vídeo original vai estar na descrição do vídeo, para quem quiser assistir. E o link do canal Nonstop também vai estar na descrição. Fechou? Vambora!
During the 2024 NBA Finals, Stan Van Gundy said that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are the best offensive backcourt ever. Doncic and Irving...
Nossa, isso aí deu uma... Nossa, isso deu uma discussão, né? Nossa senhora! Não, e aí... Fui lá eu... concordar em partes, né, com o Van Gundy. E nossa, até agora tem gente me falando: e aí, Luiz, cadê o backcourt mais talentoso da NBA? Pô, é brincadeira, né? Nem fui eu que falei a parada e a galera me cobra como se eu tivesse falado. É inacreditável, né? Inacreditável. O modus operandi do hater é uma coisa que tem que ser estudada. Nem fui eu que falei o bagulho. Aí a galera vem, fica me cobrando, pô. Cobra o Van Gundy, pô. Ele que falou, eu só concordei em partes. Nem concordei com tudo que ele falou, só concordei em partes. Pô, sacanagem.
Combined for 51 points and 13 assists per game during their playoff run, which certainly adds some
Mas assim, o time, defendendo aí o mano Van Gundy, o time era muito propício pra ele falar isso, cara. Os dois estavam destruindo no playoff. Destruindo. Então, pô, sacanagem. O time era muito favorável para ele soltar uma declaração dessa.
Legitimacy to Van Gundy's statement, but spoiler alert, they aren't among the 10 best backcourts ever. To crack that list, you have to have...
Pô, aí eu já vou discordar aí do Nonstop. Pô, Kyrie e Luka tem que estar no top 10. Ou eu tô maluco? Eles têm que estar no top 10, gente. Pode não estar no top 1, mas tem que estar no top 10. Tá. É que aqui ele tá julgando maiores, né? Não é melhores. Top 10 melhores backcourts da história da NBA, Luka e Kyrie tem que estar. Agora, maiores, aí de fato faz sentido não estar, porque eles não ganharam nada. Não ganharam nada. Então, beleza, aí eu concordo. Top 10 maiores, eu concordo os dois não estarem. Agora, se fosse top 10 melhores, aí seria loucura os dois não estarem. De Deus.
Longevity and championships, not just pure offensive talent. So, here are the 10...
E o Van Gundy, ele... Olha, os caras tiram os bagulho de contexto também. Van Gundy, ele falou que era o backcourt mais talentoso. Não falou que era o maior backcourt da história. Pô, tá vendo? Os caras é sacanagem também, né? Falta interpretação pra todo mundo. Pô, é brincadeira.
10 best backcourts in NBA history. After they lost to Michael Jordan and then didn't shake the Bulls' hands in the 1991 conference finals.
We just wanted to play clean basketball, even though they were going to try to maybe dirty it up, but we were going to keep our composure and play the game of basketball.
The Detroit Pistons didn't win a playoff series for more than a decade. But then in 2000, the franchise legend Joe Dumars took over as the president of basketball operations, and the Pistons
jogou muito o Joe Dumars, tá? E como é subestimado. Nossa, jogou muita bola.
Started to blossom. Dumars brought in Ben Wallace in 2000. In 2002, he drafted Tayshaun Prince, and in that same offseason, he traded for point guard Chauncey Billups and shooting guard Rip Hamilton. The backcourt of Billups and Hamilton soon proved to be one of the best in the NBA, with a perfect...
Putz, eu discordo, mano. Eu discordo. Sim, respeito muito esse backcourt, tá? Mas, pô, top 10 maiores... Putz, cara, sei lá.
Balance of shooting.
Tem que ver quem vai estar depois, né? Mas sei lá.
And playmaking, complementary to the great Pistons defense up front. In their 6 years together, Detroit averaged 55 wins per season and had the #1 seed in their conference 5 times. The Pistons made the conference finals in each of those 6 seasons, including 2 trips to the finals in 2004 and 2005. And while they lost in 7 games to the Spurs in 2005, Detroit's 2004 title against the Lakers remains one of the best underdog stories in NBA history.
Esse título foi absurdo, tá? Foi gigantesco o que o Pistons fez. Foi gigantesco.
Billups, who also won the finals MVP, averaged 17 points and 6 assists during his Detroit tenure, while Hamilton averaged 19 and 4 assists, and they each made 3 All-Star teams. And if you think that 36 points between them isn't much, bear in mind that the Pistons averaged 93 points per game in those 6 years, which means they're back...
Não, em proporção eles, pô, eram responsáveis pela maioria dos pontos do time. Beleza, concordo, ok. Mas sei lá, mano. Tipo, top 10 maiores backcourts da história da NBA. Você vai colocar o Hamilton e o Chelsea Billups? Sei lá.
Backcourt produced around
Posso estar errado também.
40% of all the team's points. While there were some backcourts with better numbers than Rip and Chauncey, very few matched their defensive output, clutch baskets, and playoff success. Another backcourt that played for 6 years together with 2 finals appearances and 1 title played in New York, and their nicknames were Clyde and Pearl.
Pô, aí tem que respeitar. Esses dois eram lendários.
In 1970, the Knicks miraculously won their first NBA championship, led by point guard Walt Clyde Frazier and center Willis Reed, whose unbelievable comeback after injury led them to a Game 7 victory over Wilt Chamberlain and the Lakers. Midway through the 1972 season, the Knicks made a deal that would send 2 bench players, Mike Reardon and Dave Stallworth, to the Baltimore Bullets in exchange for Earl the Pearl Monroe. Monroe was one of the best shooting guards in the NBA at the time, averaging 23 points with the Bullets and leading them to a 1971 NBA Finals. But the Pearl grew unhappy in Baltimore, so he requested a trade. Upon his arrival in the Big Apple, there was a question
Ó, meteu o Kevin Durant? Meteu-lhe o Kevin Durant?
whether he could coexist with another ball-dominant guard in Frazier. And the first season wasn't easy on Monroe, because the Knicks made him come off the bench in limited minutes, which resulted in his scoring average dipping to 11 points per game. However, the Knicks did make the finals in 1972, but they would lose to the Lakers in 5 games. Then the next season, Monroe finally moved to the starting lineup, and he meshed extremely well with Frazier. With the media
É, e você imagina a cabeça do cara, né? O cara pede troca, chega no time e é colocado no banco, né? Ele que tinha 23 pontos de média. Pô, deve ter ficado revoltado.
soon dubbing them the Rolls-Royce backcourt. Clyde and Pearl led the Knickerbockers to their second and last NBA championship as the 2 leading scorers. The Rolls-Royce backcourts to their second and last NBA championship as the 2
Pô, é muita aura, hein? É muita aura nessa foto. Ah lá, louco.
leading scorers. The Rolls-Royce backcourt played 6 years together, and they averaged 40 points and 10 assists per game combined, together with 5 All-Star appearances for Frazier and 2 for Monroe.
Esquenta Black Friday Madeira. Tem tudo que a sua casa precisa.
Toma, Ad. Black Friday, hein?
Série-se
Ó, toma mais uma, hein? Toma mais um. Cadeira.
2 finals and 1 championship is a great accomplishment. Those are rookie numbers compared to the 1960s Celtics, the winningest team of all time. And even though most of the praise for Boston's titles goes to Bill Russell, and rightfully so, the Celtics also had the best backcourt in the NBA at the time, with Bob Cousy and Sam Jones.
Nossa, também concordo. Esses dois últimos eu concordo. Muito. O Bob Cousy e o Sam Jones eram absurdos. Pô, se você tiver tempo aí, cara, faz o exercício de buscar alguns tapes antigos desses dois jogando. Cara, o Bob Cousy era gênio da bola.
Cousy was the first NBA point guard superstar, named Houdini of the Hardwood, because of his phenomenal ball handling and a deep bag of tricks. Sam Jones's best NBA years didn't come until Cousy was already retired.
I would like to say that it has been an honor and a privilege for me to compete against their teams.
But even though Cousy was slowing down as Jones was ascending, their record speaks for itself. In 6 years as teammates, Cousy and Jones won 5 NBA championships, and adding in that they had
Só isso. Só 5.
the best record in the NBA in each of those 6 years, they have the best winning percentage of any backcourt ever. But there is another backcourt duo that also won 5 championships together.
Pô, Derek Fisher e Kobe Bryant. Tem que respeitar, viu? Tem que respeitar.
Even though it took them 12 seasons to do it. Kobe Bryant and Derek Fisher both started their NBA careers with the Lakers in 1996. While Kobe was certainly the star and Fish was the sidekick, it's worth noting that Bryant was never successful without
Não, líder absurdo, Derek Fisher. Líder absurdo.
Fisher on the team.
We spent a lot of time working out after practice, before practice, just trying to push each other, and that's where the relationship really formed.
During Fisher's first 8-year tenure with the Lakers, this backcourt duo won 3 titles between 2000 and 2002, with another finals appearance in 2004. And while Fish only averaged 8 points per game, his timely shots and his passing ability were the perfect complement to Kobe's shoot first, ask questions later.
Não, o Derek Fisher ele fazia aquele trabalho silencioso. Era aquela bolinha de 3 que botava o time nos trilhos, era aquele passe na hora certa. era aquela mudança na jogada que fazia diferença, era aqueles ajustes no timeout. Dirk Fisher era o cara do trabalho silencioso, mano. Ele fazia isso com perfeição. Muito subestimado o Dirk Fisher, né?
Later mentality. Shaq and Fisher left after the 04 season, and Kobe and the Lakers struggled, not winning a single playoff series.
I've been so used to having them sit, behind me on the bus. I turned around and he
E foi jogar no gigantesco, né? Não tem jeito. Foi jogar no gigante.
he did. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
However, when Fish returned for the 2008 season, along with Pau Gasol, he helped Kobe reach 3 straight NBA Finals and win 2 more NBA titles. After Derek left the team in 2011, Kobe won just 1 more playoff series, which was the only series he ever won without Fisher. In their 12 seasons...
Então, o que eu tô entendendo aí é que o Kobe era meio que sem meu Dirk Fisher eu não consigo. É isso? É isso então que eu tô entendendo?
together, they won 32 out of 39 playoff series, which is an 82% success rate and is the NBA record for most series wins by a pair of teammates. With 847 games played together, they hold the Lakers' record for most games played between teammates. In fact, there's only one
Aí esquece, isso é elite, tá? Isso aí é elite. 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 Esquece. Incontestáveis.
Court in NBA history who played more games together than Kobe and Fish. And when they first arrived in the NBA, almost nobody knew who they were.
Ginobili.
Pô, Ginobili. Os caras não sabiam falar o nome do cara, né?
Ginobili. Tony Parker of Racing Club Paris. France.
Then, 16 years and 933 games later, when the skinny French point guard
933 jogos.
and the Argentine, whose name was hard to pronounce, left San Antonio, they left with 4 championships and plenty of records.
Nossa.
Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili
Eles são muito grandes, mano. Vai tomar no cu. São gigantescos.
only have 8 All-Star appearances between them, and they averaged 15 and 13 points per game, which doesn't sound like much. But the numbers don't tell the whole story of how good they were as a duo. Parker was one of the fastest point guards, with one of the best floaters in NBA history, and was the first European player to win the Finals MVP. Ginobili is arguably the best 6th man in NBA history, a guy who popularized the Euro step in the NBA.
Criou, né? O Harden copiou o Eurostep do Manu Ginobili.
Fearless scorer, and a genius passer. Manu's career regular season record of 762 and 295 translated to a winning percentage of 71.2%, the highest ever for any player who has played a minimum of 1,000 regular season games. Tony and Manu won 132 playoff games together, which is the most ever by a pair of teammates. And if we had to choose who are the most clutch backcourt teammates ever, Parker and Ginobili would get the vote, even though some other players have better stats. And our next backcourt had much better stats. And while they were also very clutch, they were extremely unlucky. We're talking about Jerry West and Gail Goodrich. West went to 9 NBA Finals, but won just 1 championship. That was hardly his fault.
Pô, Jerry West não tem jeito, né? É o que eu falo, mano. Não tem como você contar a história da NBA sem falar do Jerry West. É impressionante.
At the time of his retirement, Jerry West was the best shooting guard of all time, averaging 27 points per game before the three-point era, even though...
Mas eu colocaria Tony Parker e o Ginobili na frente deles, tá? Pra mim, Tony Parker e Ginobili estaria no topo, assim. No topo.
He was a deadly outside shooter. Jerry was an all-star in each of his 14 NBA seasons, with 12 All-NBA selections and 5 All-Defensive selections. With 30 points per game in the finals, he's the 3rd all-time finals scorer behind Rick Barry and Michael Jordan. And with 1,679 total points in the finals, West is the all-time finals leader in points scored.
E o cara nunca ganhou o MVP de regular. Loucura isso, né? Nunca ganhou o MVP de regular, o Jerry West.
Ahead of LeBron James. Jerry's backcourt partner for 7 seasons, Gail Goodrich, was another Hall of Famer who made 5 NBA Finals with the logo. Stumpy, as they called him due to his small frame, was a 5-time All-Star, averaging 19 points and 5 assists as a Laker. With 25 points per game, Goodrich was the leading scorer in the 1972 Finals, helping Jerry West to finally become an NBA champion. Together, they averaged 47 points in the playoffs, and that's why they rank so high on our list. And while West and Goodrich scored at will, this next backcourt is largely known for their defense. Isaiah Thomas and
Pô, esse é gigante. Esse backcourt pra mim é um dos meus favoritos da história.
Joe Dumars were
Joe Dumars e Isaiah Thomas. Nossa senhora, eram absurdos, nossa,
the
mano.
leaders of the bad boy Pistons, and the best
Olha, não, na boa.
their defense. Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars were the leaders
Olha a aura dessa foto. é muita aura. Nossa senhora.
Of the bad boy Pistons and the best players in the franchise's history. Thomas and Dumars played together for 9 years, with a combined 35 points and 13 assists per game, in addition to 12 All-Star appearances. Their 3 consecutive finals appearances resulted in 2 titles, solidifying this backcourt as one of the best ever. Even though their individual numbers don't jump off the page, their leadership and overall game puts them ahead of some other backcourts, and both players won the finals MVP.
Conheça a solução completa.
Que isso, é muito ad. Olha aí. Que isso, coisa maravilhosa. Mas nunca, não pulem os ads, tá, gente?
Talk about the bad boys without
Pro criador de conteúdo é muito importante, tá? Não pulem os ads.
no matter who he played with. But during his second three-peat run with the Bulls, MJ's backcourt partner was arguably the most underrated player on the Bulls, Ron Harper.
Nossa, o Ron Harper, muito subestimado, cara. Muito subestimado, Ron Harper.
In the 8 seasons before he came to Chicago, Harper was a stud. He averaged 19...
Não, e rapidinho, curiosidade. Eu tava recentemente assistindo a boa série Kenan and Kel. Quem nunca assistiu Kenan and Kel não teve infância, né? Surreal. E tem um episódio onde o Ron Harper aparece, cara. Tipo, o Kenan, ele machuca o Ron Harper. E aí, pô, dá mó merda, o Bulls perde o jogo. Pô, surreal, cara, surreal. Depois caçem. Depois procurem. Ron Harper, Kenan and Kel. Pô, absurdo.
18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals for the Cavs and the Clippers. Harper was as versatile as they come, a tenacious defender, great floor general, and a capable scorer. However, when he joined the Bulls, Harper willingly took a backseat on offense to put all his focus on defense, and turned into one
dos melhores guards defensores que a NBA já viu. Tranquilamente. Ron Harper era inacreditável na defesa.
of the best perimeter defenders in the game. Even though they were both past the age of 30 during their 4-year stint together, Harper and Jordan formed the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, resulting in 3 NBA championships. Similar to Jordan and Harper, this next backcourt also featured an all-time great and a
lendário. Esse backcourt é lendário.
defensive specialist. Michael Cooper came to the NBA
Michael Cooper jogou muita bola.
in 1978, and Magic Johnson got drafted a year later, and they both played for the Lakers their entire careers. Coop wasn't a starter for much of his career, but due to his defensive prowess, he was always on the court in crunch time. With 8 selections to all defensive teams and a Defensive Player of the Year award in 1987, Coop was the perfect backcourt partner to Magic, who was, of course, an offensive genius, but an average defender at best. Together, they won 5 championships and made 8 NBA Finals, which makes them one of the most successful backcourts of all time. Byron Scott, who was also drafted by the Lakers in 1983,
Que depois virou treinador de merda, mas como jogador era muito bom.
could also be mentioned here, especially because he was a starter and a much better offensive player than Cooper. But because Scott won only 3 championships with Magic, it's Coop who gets the nod. And before we get to the #1 backcourt of all time, let's name some honorable mentions who didn't make the cut. John Stockton and Jeff Hornacek played together.
Pô, pra mim, são maiores. É que nunca foram campeões, né? Tem esse ponto. Eu ia falar que eles poderiam ficar no lugar do Billups e do Hamilton, mas não dá não. Não foram campeões, é maiores, top 10 maiores, então não dá.
Together for 7 years in Utah, and they were easily the best shooting backcourt of the 90s, highlighted by 2 trips to the NBA Finals. Similarly, Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter played together for
Pô, gigantes também.
10 years and led the Blazers to 2 NBA Finals. And even though they didn't like each other that
Vou falar. Ray Allen e Rajon Rondo. Pô, não cabia eles no lugar de Billups e Hamilton. Não cabia. Rajon Rondo e Ray Allen, não cabia. Que isso? Que isso?
much, Rajon Rondo and Ray Allen had plenty of highlights during their 6 years together, including 2 finals runs and the iconic 2008 NBA championship. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum.
Aí calma, né? Calma. Maiores não tem como, não. Melhores, beleza, eles entrariam. Agora, maiores, não. Desculpa, não tem como. Curry e Lucas são muito melhores do que McCollum e Damian Lillard. Muito melhores.
Only made it to the conference finals once, but during their 9-year career as teammates, they averaged 45 points per game, which definitely deserves a mention. Lastly, James Harden and Chris Paul, who...
Nossa, se eles tivessem ganhado um título... Nossa, cara... Nossa, os dois jogaram, hein? Os dois jogaram bem juntos, velho. Se o Chris Paul não tivesse machucado naquele playoff, o Houston tinha chegado nas finais, mano. Eu posso te falar, é que eles jogaram muito pouco juntos. Mas você olha em nome, pô, o backcourt Harden e Kyrie Irving, quando foi montado... É que eu tinha sempre um pezinho atrás, mas, pô, no fundo, eu torci muito pra dar certo. Porque em termos de talento puro, cara, Harden e Kyrie juntos tinha tudo pra ser um absurdo, mas, né... Kyrie é maluco, né? O ponto é que o Kyrie é maluco. Era maluco, agora ele tá mais pezinho no chão, né?
Played 2 seasons together, and even though they didn't even make the finals, they got awfully close in 2018, where an injury to Chris Paul likely denied them the chance to win the title. And the guys who stopped them from winning that title are none other than the best backcourt in NBA.
Assina embaixo. Assina embaixo. Pra mim, Curry e Clay é o maior backcourt da história da NBA. E em segundo, eu colocaria Tony Parker e Ginobili. Mas primeiro, pra mim, é indiscutível, mano. Curry e Clay formaram a melhor dupla de PG-SG que a NBA já viu. Melhor não, maior. A maior. Talvez até a melhor também. Os caras, mano, sintonia dos dois, a química dos dois. E, pô, empilharam taças, né? Então...
A history. Of course, we're talking about the Splash Brothers.
Pô, os Splash Brothers, gigantescos. E o Leandrinho aqui, hein? Aqui é Brasil, porra.
Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the best shooter of all time and the best catch-and-shoot player ever, were a nightmare to guard.
A mecânica mais linda de arremesso da história da NBA é a mecânica do Klay Thompson.
And they changed the game of basketball forever. In their 11 seasons when both players were healthy, the Splash Brothers shot below 40% for 3 only 3 times. And their combined scoring average in the playoffs was a whopping 46 points per game. They have 6 finals appearances and 4 championships, together with 15
Só isso.
All-Star appearances between them. The Splash Brothers were the primary driver behind the three-point
run. Nesse momento eu imagino os saudosistas como estão, hein? Nossa senhora, os saudosistas estão malucos.
Revolution in the NBA. And with over 6,000 three-pointers made, Steph and Klay are easily the best backcourt duo of all time. Thanks for watching Nonstop.
Concordo. Top 1 concordo. Top 1 concordo. Em segundo, como eu disse, pra mim é Tony Parker e Manu Ginobili. E pra você, quais são as maiores duplas de backcourt, né? Os maiores backcourts da história da NBA? Maiores, não melhores. Comenta aí que eu quero saber. Se gostou, deixa o like, se inscreve no canal. E é isso, gente. Tamo junto, um abraço. Tchau.